So the saga of Beau DeMayo versus Marvel continues. Variety has a new article up from Adam B. Very. Beau DeMayo accuses Marvel and Disney of egregious prejudicial misconduct on X-Men 97 and Blade. Now, this is a follow-up to the story we've been covering about Beau DeMayo, who was the showrunner and the lead writer for X-Men 97. The first season was absolutely phenomenal, critically acclaimed. I fell in love with that show. And then, of course, he was fired before the show actually began. And there wasn't really a reason given. And I remember he was on Twitter talking about how he wasn't invited by Disney and Marvel. And I did a video, I want to say last week. It was a few days ago where I discussed that Disney said that he was sending like nude photos of himself to cast members in superhero poses, or not cast members but crew members, and I said I would follow up, and I did hear after that his attorney did make a statement. So this thing might end up going to court, and that's going to be interesting. Now, when these things happen, it's sort of like when I don't really cover this type of stuff that often, as many of you know, but when these things happen, sort of like the Jonathan Major story, I'm one of those people that, maybe because I've lived a certain kind of life or because I'm a content creator, I like to let things play out because you really don't know who is telling the truth and what really happened. You know what I mean? We really do not know as people who don't work there. And I know a lot of folks hate Disney. I know a lot of people don't like that company's politics or what they've done to Star Wars, but just because Disney has messed up some franchises does not mean that they should have the finger pointed at them for something that they did or didn't do wrong. Like, we have to let this thing play out. So let me get to this article here. Beau DeMayo, the creator and executive producer of the Marvel animation series X-Men 97, accused Marvel and Disney of egregious, that's a big word for Latino, prejudicial misconduct in a 30-minute video he posted on Wednesday to his OnlyFans profile. I am not subscribed to his OnlyFans, needless to say, so there's no way I would have been able to see any of it. I'm not sure if OnlyFans is the right place to be posting, rebuttals to Disney when they're accusing you of sexual misconduct, and OnlyFans has the reputation of being like a sexually driven site. I know that wasn't the original intention of the creators, or so I've heard, but it's kind of a weird place to post these videos. You'd think he put it on his Twitter or on Instagram or something. DeMayo was fired by Marvel on the eve of X-Men 97's series premiere on Disney Plus in March, but the studio declined to comment on the reasons for his removal till August, following the accusation from DeMayo that he was stripped of his credits for season 2 of the show after he posted fan art of himself shirtless as the X-Men character Cyclops in June for Gay Pride. See, that's the thing. I didn't even hear this. I had always heard from asking friends that he got canned because he had an OnlyFans. But it's kind of weird for Disney to do that because Disney seems to be a very liberal company and the company that will let people do stuff like that. So it doesn't seem like that would make that much sense. But it is true, though. Like, Disney never actually commented themselves about why he was cut. Following that allegation, Marvel released a statement that DeMayo was terminated due to egregious nature of findings in internal investigation. A source with knowledge of that investigation further told Variety it was for sexual misconduct and that DeMayo's credits were stripped because he violated the terms of his termination agreement. So I guess he was supposed to be credited for X-Men Season 2, 97 Season 2. But of course the question is, with his credit being stripped, does that mean they're going to rewrite the episodes? Does that mean they're going to redo the episodes? That's, because I think there's a law. I could be wrong about this. I'm not an expert, but I thought there was a rule where you have to credit somebody no matter what. But maybe not. Maybe they had some kind of contract where that isn't the case. I don't know, but let's keep going. These allegations of egregious misconduct are false, DeMayo says in the video, adding that rumors of the nature of DeMayo's alleged misconduct have been floated on various sites and podcasts are lies. They are offensive, DeMayo continues. But more concerning is that they're a smear campaign designed to discredit my credibility in order to cover up the egregious, prejudicial misconduct stretching from select crew members on X-Men 97 all the way to the top of Marvel Studios. So he's basically accusing them of racism. Well, prejudicial misconduct isn't really racism. It could also be, sexism or homophobia or something like that. It's just interesting because recently, and I didn't do a video about this, but Jonathan Majors was accusing Marvel of racism, talking about how, and this is paraphrasing that, they brought back Robert Downey Jr., who has a checkered past, which is true, but that was a very, very long time ago, even before Iron Man, way before, and that because he's black, they didn't bring him back. And I don't know. It's the race card is tricky to play because I feel like oftentimes I see celebrities play the card when they feel like they have nothing else they can play. It's played up a lot in politics. I'm not saying that Jonathan Majors is wrong, and I'm not saying Beau DeMayo is wrong. Once again, I'm very, very, very independent. I'm a very independent thinker, and as a result of that, I don't know until we have evidence. We need some real evidence before we can actually accuse any prejudice going on. DeMayo alleges that he both experienced and witnessed misconduct while working on X-Men 97 in his capacity as showrunner and during a brief stint as a screenwriter on the long-in-the-works feature film Blade, set to star Mahershala Ali. Now, the Blade movie has been in the news lately because there's been rumors coming out that Blade and Armor Wars may have been canceled by Marvel. That's two projects they were talking about for years. They had them announced years ago, and there's talk now they may have been canceled. Completely canceled, not just postponed, like wiped off the map. And there's been a lot of problems with that Blade movie, and them canceling that, especially with Wesley Snipes being in Deadpool and Wolverine. Spoiler if you haven't seen it, sorry. You should have seen it by now. I mean, I'm just being honest with you. It's I really praise everybody to go see it. It, and then the line he had in the movie, it just sort of felt like, maybe they weren't going to do a Blade film, or maybe they'll just have Wesley Snipes be Blade, or maybe not. I mean, he's still in the end of time, so it's got a lot of problems. A spokesperson for Marvel Studios did not respond to a request for comment. DeMayo says that the breaches in his exit agreement were posts he made about X-Men 97 during his run, including posting fan art, speaking at a screening show at a bar, highlighting different cast and crew, explaining how the massacre at the LGBTQ nightclub Pulse in 2016 was one of the main inspirations for an episode involving a surprise attack on the mutant nation of Genosha. Yes, that was episode 5. He also alleged that Disney blacklisted him from third-party non-Disney Comic-Con panels and blocked him from attending the Emmys next week, where X-Men 97 is nominated for Best Animated Series. That's a bummer when these companies can actually stop you from doing panels and conventions. I don't know if that's right. Like, if you book something on your own, whether it be a convention or whether it be an award show, I understand him not being able to go up if they win the Emmy. I sort of get that, and that's why they did that, because they don't want to be associated with him. But to block somebody from doing a panel, even if it's not Comic-Con, if it's something that's unrelated to Disney, that is a bit much. He also alleged that Disney blacklisted him from... Oh, I already said that part. While he did not refer to anyone by name, DeMayo also outlined several specific allegations of misconduct against Marvel and Disney executives and employees that range widely in severity and magnitude. They include: DeMayo alleges that his identity as a gay black man was weaponized by Marvel execs and select crew members to undermine me and use the same dog-whistling stereotypes favored by bigots for decades. He's big, he's intimidating, too opinionated, angry, emotional, flamboyant, dramatic, a pervert. See, that's crazy because based on what you hear about Disney, that doesn't sound like them at all. But at the same time, a lot of these companies are very hypocritical. A lot of these companies like to play that political card when it benefits them, and then when it doesn't, they play the other card. They just turn the head. It's not just companies; people do that. DeMayo alleges that he fought Marvel executives over his desire to adapt storylines from previously published X-Men comic book runs rather than create brand new stories for the show, as they desired, and he was called uncollaborative, too difficult, and too much of a fanboy. Well, you can say that, but that fanboy delivered on some good storylines. They openly resented me fighting for the fans, he says. See, that sounds like Disney. You know what I'm saying? Now we're starting to sound like Disney because that, like I've said before, in the past few years, Disney has shown a tremendous amount of resentment for the fans. Not so much Marvel. Not so much the Marvel division as much as Star Wars and, the live action remake part of the company. So that doesn't surprise me at all. DeMayo alleges that executives painted him as abusive when he decided to have the character of Jubilee make gang signs or paint the sky with plasmoids in the shape of middle fingers. That doesn't seem like it's that crazy. Jubilee's a teenager. It kind of makes sense. DeMayo alleges there were near criminal working conditions for VFX and animation artists at Marvel. We've heard that about a lot of companies, by the way. And that people who worked on X-Men 97 were rapidly losing weight and having mental breakdowns. And when he emailed Marvel leadership about these issues, he experienced retaliation. This type of stuff right here, I'm not saying that it definitely happened, but I could believe that. That does not sound outlandish. A lot of the VFX people throughout the years have been abused by top people, top brass at companies. We hear this a lot. This is nothing new. And it's not just something that happens in America. Trust me. Me being somebody who has somewhat of an understanding of how things work in Japan, VFX artists are oftentimes very underpaid and very overworked at the least. DeMayo alleges he notified the producer on X-Men 97 that one of our leads is having a potentially exploitative sexual relationship with a PA, and the producer buried the report and informed the individual in question of DeMayo's complaint. Yeah, that's bad. Corporate bullshit. He alleges the same producer on X-Men 97 repeatedly joked to crew that he showed DeMayo's thirst traps on Instagram to his underage son, and his kid is wondering, do they need to buy me shirts for Christmas? What the fuck, bro? What is this? DeMayo alleges that an artist on X-Men 97 repeatedly denounced all men as jerks and accused DeMayo of failing the cause because he kept the male character Cyclops as leader of the X-Men. That sounds like some Disney shit, okay? Now, again, he's saying it was an artist. It wasn't like a producer, but damn, you know what I mean? That sounds like some shit you'd see on The Acolyte. DeMayo alleges that a lead artist on the show told him at a company barbecue in 2021 that her husband felt that I must get a lot of dick based upon how I look. I mean, okay. That comment right there could... Okay, I don't know. Okay, when he says that her husband felt that I must get a lot of dick based on how I look, I guess he means himself. Okay, because when I first read that, I thought her husband was talking about her getting a lot of dick, which that's a weird comment to make to your wife, bro. You better be drunk if you're going to make that comment to your wife. But it sounds like he's talking about DeMayo. He's basically saying that because DeMayo is muscular, that he gets a lot of dick. I mean, yeah, I don't know. That comment can definitely be seen as offensive depending on who you are. It just depends. I know some people who would probably take that as being flattering. I don't know. When DeMayo requested contacting producers of RuPaul's Drag Race about promoting X-Men 97, he alleges he was told by Marvel they wouldn't want to alienate certain audiences. I mean, RuPaul's Drag Race is already sort of for its own audience. I mean, they're going to alienate audiences with that kind of subject matter, right? So, I don't know. Again, these stories are weird, but this guy's obviously got some receipts, right? DeMayo alleges that Marvel's PR department listed homosexuality as a hot button issue to avoid alongside school shootings, the Gaza conflict, and abortion. Well, all of those topics are controversial to some, But I would say that the least controversial of them is homosexuality, especially in this day and age. Like, it's pretty much accepted now that people are homosexual and they're gonna be like that. It's just, this is no longer like how it was in the 70s and 80s, right? And there's a lot of sexual freedom right now in the United States. So as far as it being a hot button issue, again, very strange that Disney, of all companies, would list that as a hot button issue. Now, the Gaza conflict, school shootings, and abortions, yeah, those are things that I myself feel uncomfortable talking about, even with my own friends. So it's a thing where I wouldn't ever make light or exploit something like that. It's gonna rub a lot of people the wrong way on either side. You know what I mean? You're gonna. It's just not a good idea. You can be more creative than to use those as topics. DeMayo alleges that Marvel executives joked in front of DeMayo that they hired a young Wesley Snipes to write on Blade. One of the reasons I wanted to do the video so that you can see that Wesley Snipes and I look nothing alike, he adds. Oh, so he's saying that because he's black, he's a dark black man, that he looks like Wesley Snipes, I guess. I don't know. He doesn't look, I've seen DeMayo, I've seen his Twitter. He does not look like Wesley Snipes at all. Not even remotely. They couldn't even be relatives. If somebody told me they were distant cousins, I would not believe it. So if this is true, this can definitely be seen as a racist comment. DeMayo says the last straw for him was when he arrived at the production offices of Blade at Tyler Perry Studios in Atlanta and was told that someone needed to crack the whip around here. Oh, okay, so crack the whip. In and of itself, that statement is not necessarily a racist statement. It just kind of means to pick up the slack and start working, even though the cracking the whip is literally from slavery. You know what I mean? Like, I used to work at a call center, and I was told, let's get that whip cracking, like, let's crack the whip, like, long time ago. This is like in the early 2000s. Obviously, nowadays, that would get somebody fired. And the person who said it was a minority, right? So I don't think that that phrase, crack the whip, should not be being used in a corporate environment just because of situations like this, because it can be misconstrued as like a slave owner trying to overwork the slave, and that's a touchy subject. So without question, man, that is, in a corporate environment, especially one that has multicultural people, one that is from a public company, you just don't want to even joke like that. You have to be extra careful of what you say. He alleges that on September 6, 2022, that's almost 1 year ago to the day, he sent his concerns about what he saw as prejudicial conditions on the film to leadership at Marvel, and in return, I was removed from the project in the middle of moving to Atlanta for production, and then had my role on season 2 of X-Men 1997 aggressively marginalized. DeMayo says he has the receipts and eyewitnesses to back his claims rather than dump them on the internet. He would prefer to relay them to authorities at Marvel and Disney so that those responsible are able to receive what I was not at full and fair investigation away from the public eye. Those responsible are able to receive what I was not a full and fair investigation away from the public eye. Okay. This is me trying to do the right thing, he says, and this is Marvel's chance to do the same. Yeah, this is going to get dirty, bro. This is... Okay. DeMayo's attorney, Brian Friedman, filed a lawsuit against Marvel on Tuesday seeking to invalidate the non-disparagement provision in his separation agreement. Okay, so basically what happened was, now it makes sense to me. When he separated from Marvel, when he was cut, they made him sign an agreement where he signed, so it's like an NDA, but it's an NDP, non-disparagement provision, which means that you leave a company, you're not allowed to talk shit about it. That's basically what it means. And his lawyer's trying to get that invalidated. Friedman contends that the agreement violates a new California law that limits NDAs and requires they allow an employee to disclose information about unlawful acts in the workplace, such as harassment or discrimination. Well, if Beau DeMayo has witnesses, if Beau DeMayo has receipts then, for discrimination, then that would be something that would fall under that. And obviously the lawyer would know, and you would assume, violating Beau's statutory California rights will cost Marvel this case, but more importantly, Marvel can no longer stop the truth from coming out, Freeman said in a statement. So that's the end of the article, man. It looks like this Beau DeMayo situation is going to go to court, and it looks like it's going to get dirty with Marvel. Again, a lot of the stuff that he says does not surprise me, because there's a lot of covert racism and discrimination that goes on even in companies that claim to be against it. Just because you work for a company, just because a person works for a company that claims to be about the minorities and inclusion and things like that, does not mean you're not going to have racists and homophobes and people like that in your company. People gotta eat. People gotta, live their lives. They got families. And so oftentimes what happens is people who have these thoughts that don't really align with the company's values or their perceived values will work there for the paycheck and just not talk and just not say anything, or do very subtle racism. I've witnessed that myself in the workplace before. I've literally had it happen to me when I was at McDonald's. I did a speak to him about it a while ago. I had a manager who was a white blonde lady who, when she found out that I wasn't white, that I spoke Spanish, and that I was Hispanic, started to mistreat me. And I wasn't the only Spanish person that was treated that way. And I noticed that. And I did a video about that. That was discrimination. Very bad discrimination. She found out I was Hispanic and started having me do disgusting work and work that I didn't like, and was saying very passive aggressive things to me and just mistreating me. So, and I'm sure the McDonald's Corporation wouldn't, they don't want to ever look like that, but there's always going to be bigots in companies. And that is if, of course, what he says is true and what isn't. So the thing is, both things could be true. There could be prejudiced people in the company, and he may have actually shown his dick to people. It could be both things are true. It's just, what is the truth? Maybe if they go to court, it'll come out. So that's all I have for you today. I hope you're having a good weekend. Longer video today than normal, but I wanted to give this article a real good read and analysis, because, it's too bad that this happened, because this dude did a good job with X-Men 97 Season 1 objectively, and he's never coming back. Hopefully whoever picks up the show from now on can follow in the spirit. Take care of yourself. Have a good one. We will see you in the next video.